Chris again with Nature's Recreations, coming at you with another project showcase. This is a project that we did about 7 years ago that has finally filled in and matured to the point where it is ready for follow-up video. And I tell you, you guys are not gonna believe what you're about to see. Check this out. Tell you guys, this thing is looking absolutely amazing. We are out here taking some footage of a project that we never got a chance to film when we were actually building it, and I wanted to show you guys how cool this thing came out. This thing originally started out with a pond down here that was just not quite functional, didn't have the key components to keep the water looking clear. There was no biological filtration and just not a lot to it. It actually cut off pretty much right here. This was actually a pond liner, and this section here started the concrete section. And this thing goes up every bit of 250 to 275 feet up throughout this landscape. The problem they were having is all that concrete up there was all broken up and completely cracked, and we were unable to sustain this system and run it. Not to mention it was way out of balance. That's what I was here to do, is to create a leak-free system and actually rectify the problem. So what I love the most about this feature is all the interaction points, bridges, the pathways, the established landscaping, the little fairy garden with the bench and the bananas. This is truly how a natural feature should be. It should intertwine throughout the landscape, having these interaction points where these paths converge. This path is one that leads you all the way around the back side of this property, but you still get little glimpses. You can hear the water, you can see the bridge where we just came from. This now leads to another spot where we have this little vignette. You can see that water popping through these cypress here, and then we can bounce back out and around, and this takes us all the way up to the other crossing and bridge. But as we come around this corner, we see the little lion's heads fountain spitting down and that waterfall, and everything leads back to that main pond. This is the headwaters of the lower system, and I will explain why we had to divide this here in a second. But I want to show you where this pathway leads to, and is how cool this is. We've left, or the landscaper has left, these little open areas where you can see these sections of the water feature. But I love this pathway and all the bridges and intercrossing areas, because that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see places where people can get close to the water, interact with it, and just observe and see how it melds with the natural setting. This is such a cool stream. You would never know this thing wasn't here to begin with, and this property was built around this. It looks like it's 1,000 years old, and it has been here since the beginning of time. Here's the headwaters where we placed our double biofalls coming down through this section. We wanted to have a dramatic crossing point with some sound. They've got these lovely green giant arborvitaes behind it, providing a nice backdrop, and then this awesome little sitting pergola right here adjacent to this bridge and crossing. And then this path just continues on all the way down to where we came in at, and then it also has another offshoot. It never stops, guys. This one especially is close to this water feature and gives you some really amazing views and the sound of this system. But check out this curved bench around this old Dawn redwood that unfortunately didn't make it through the construction, but they turned it into an awesome sculpture here. Looks phenomenal, and such a purposeful destination point where you can come and sit and see where these two features converge and spring-like origination points begin coming out of the ground and moving throughout the rest of the system. The other thing that complicated this site was where we were working. The minute we started popping up these big concrete slabs that were all cracked and leaking, we found almost like quicksand-like soil underneath all of this. And right up about there, we had just about buried our excavator and bobcat because the bottom dropped out. And what we came to find out was there's actually natural springs running underneath the ground in this area, and we could not get to stable ground. So we dug a massive trench throughout this entire stream system, and we literally had to pave a roadway for us to build just this stream and falls because it was so unstable. So what we actually did was lay down 2 feet of a gravel substrate, starting with 2-inch clean, working our way up to a very fine screenings. Then we had to pave over the top of that with insulation. And actually this project, because the reason we did this was to fix the leak in the system, because it was leaking for so long, the autofill would run constantly, and the homeowner finally got tired of it. We actually have concrete cloth under and over this entire system. I do not remember how many rolls of concrete cloth material were in here, but it was an enormous amount to cover this kind of surface area. And again, it's underneath and below or over the top of our liner, completely encapsulating this thing to make it completely bulletproof. But it was so challenging because not only did we have to work in reverse, going from the top down, this basin, we could not even dig a structure in this. It kept filling in. So we literally had to pour concrete walls and panels to support so these aqua blocks would not just completely cave and crush in and or heave out of the ground. We have an under drain underneath this with a sump system that is relieving that spring water and actually dropping it back into this basin that then overflows into this system. And I'm happy to report, I was just talking to the landscaper, they have not had to add water except for this last month where we were really dry, because this thing is actually generating its own water. It runs through this system, fills this up, and goes down the overflow and out into the yard. And the homeowner was saying, hey, why is this always wet? It's because your waterfall is overflowing because of that spring water. But it worked out to our benefit in one respect. Building it, not so much. One of the other things I really love about this beginning portion of this falls, this whole thing is one big stone forming those 2 waterfalls. We had the perfect little indentation on both sides that we were able to use this not only as a splitting stone, but as the waterfall stones. And the way that we tucked this framer and that one right up next to it, honestly, I have a hard time telling that this is not one solid rock formation that just was born from Mother Nature. I tell you, that is the epitome of what we're trying to achieve on every single feature. Look how natural that looks, and just how spectacular that moss has just taken over, where it's getting that just adequate splash and shade situation. So down here, to be able to support all that stream and falls going all the way up there, I had to do a really odd technique that really ended up working out, but it was a very challenging site. I had to get as much surface area in this pond as possible, and to get the filtration I wanted, we actually turned the original pond back into a pond. We have a skimmer in both sides over there, drawing in debris and running a couple of the pumps. Some of them are jets, some of them are actually biofalls. One of them is this really cool mossy covered waterfall coming out of that biofalls there for some additional filtration. But what we don't see and what doesn't meet the eye in this situation is this entire shallow section all the way up to my stepper crossing area is one massive upflow constructed wetland filter to filter this system, the pond, and that section of stream going all the way up to where the pondless basin stops. So this entire gravel area here has aqua blocks underneath the entire thing that we're actually taking and pumping and forcing water up through. So we had to isolate that liner to get that to work. But what you don't notice is all the stuff underneath. So this just looks like part of the pond. Yes, it's kind of a shallow section. Yes, the fish could come up in here through this little channel and crossing stone area, but what this is doing is allowing us to support that massive stream and falls upstream from here. Because it was so long, we just could not get the balance to work out. But now it is doing just fine. It has been functioning phenomenally since it was constructed. That's a wrap for another Nature's Recreations project showcase. Hope you guys enjoyed that one, because this is truly a star of a project. We loved building this thing, but we had our challenges, I'm not gonna lie. This thing was probably one of the top 5 most challenging sites we've ever worked on, because of the existing landscape that we had to work around and that extremely wet substrate. But I tell you, it was worth every bit of effort, because look at the results. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoy content we're putting out there. If you guys like what you see and you want to see more, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and drop me a comment on how we're doing and what you guys think of all these amazing features.